July 10th, 7 p.m. on the nose. If I could ask everyone to rise for the pledge of allegiance. To destroy stuff. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Something new instead of the gavel. Yeah. As we do not have minutes from our previous meeting, June 12th, I will.
That's 2 meetings ago. The minutes we do not have are from the 26th.
I do apologize for that. Never mind. If we could please review the minutes from June 12th. Any questions, comments, corrections, misspellings? Hearing no questions, comments, or complaints, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 12th as provided.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Rossetti?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Ms. Duhai?
Aye.
And for the record, I will state aye as well. All right, first agenda item this evening, a motion to recommend approval of final development plans for Prairie Ridge North neighborhoods J, T, Z, and AA, conditional upon receiving final engineering approval. Mr. Ray, any additional background on this, or?
So these are the first 4 neighborhoods in Prairie Ridge North that are going to be undergoing development post the approval in March for the kind of the redesign of this whole portion of the development. So this is the preliminary plan that was approved. We're generally talking Harmony Road bisects it in the middle right here. The bottom is Kelly Road, and up near the top here is Melms Road. You can see big timber kind of sweep down in the upper right corner. So we're generally talking about this 3 cluster right down here, TZ and AA, and then across Harmony Road, the first neighborhood there is J. Those are all single family dwellings of different sizes. This will also include a large park area below AA, as well as what is currently a future elementary school site, although D300 hasn't come out and said that they're going to build there yet anytime soon. Dan, anything else you want to add?
No, other than we have received an early mass grading permit. We started mobilizing today. You probably saw that we were talking about it. So we're anxious to get going. Perhaps one of the questions you may have is why neighborhood J is only half platted. It's because from here over, it's gravity flow to an existing sanitary here. From this direction over, it has to flow to the lift station. So the lift station needs to be built first. So, other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Rossetti, Ms. Duhai? Come. Okay. In that case, then I will officially entertain a motion to recommend the approval of final development plans for Prairie Ridge North neighborhoods J, T, Z, and AA, conditional upon receiving final engineering approval.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Ms. Duhai? Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Aye.
Myself will also vote aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
That meeting with the chicken. Appreciate that.
Go get it.
Had a hanger. Thank you.
Take care.
I will open the public hearing for the adoption of the Village of Hampshire zoning map at 7:04 p.m. Mr. Ray, anyone signed up to speak at this public hearing?
Sir, I'll just note for the record that notice of this public hearing was published in the Daily Herald between 15 and 30 days ahead of this date. It's in your packet there, the publication is. Would you like any kind of, I mean, there's agenda supplement on this matter. Would you like any explanation or summary?
Questions or comments for Mr. Ray?
The only change is the clarification on that one property, that's the dentist office.
Yeah, no, I forgot I was gonna blow that up here on the map because I know it's almost impossible to see unless you can really zoom in. But there's a small parcel there, 303 North State Street, where the dentist office was. That is for sale. He has since retired. And it's actually inhibiting the sale of his property because it's currently zoned industrial and it really shouldn't be. It's a small parcel and it's been, retail office kind of style zoning for as long as anybody knows. So if I can pull it up here just to make sure we all know. It's that parcel labeled as A, this vicinity, right near the creek, right adjacent to the creek. So as you can see, it's light blue. It should be one of the pink colors. Staff recommends B2 zoning just because it gives some flexibility, but everything around it is B1. So commission, if you'll make a recommendation for a specific district, that would be proper, I think. Jimmy, anything else?
No, just that Josh is a fantastic job with all this, actually. And think of this as a typo. It's just a typo that rather than being a spelling error or a comma splice or something like that my third grade teacher would tell us about. It's just when they redid the map and created this map, they colored it the wrong time. So we're trying to fix that up. Josh went through, like Sherlock Holmes, found the evidence to show that it should have never been this way. So that's why we're doing it this way. The practice, my personal practice is always to do the annual zoning map every year. Make sure we don't have stuff like this. So my recommendation, we do this in the future. And again, kudos to Josh for digging this up and making sure that we've got evidence worth its time.
In that case, then I will close the public hearing at 7:07 PM. Mr. Vaselli's edification there. Next agenda item, if there are no questions or comments on the adoption of the Village of Hampshire zoning map, I will officially entertain a motion to recommend adoption of the Village of Hampshire zoning map.
So,
I'll second.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Rosetti?
Aye.
Ms. Duhai?
yes,
And I myself also vote aye.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. The motion, we needed to include a specific zoning district for that one parcel.
Okay.
My apologies. I'd recommend either B1 or B2. B2 is slightly more flexible and there's several B2 in the area, but directly adjacent to that property across the street and to the south of B1, so.
All right. What was the address on that one again? I'm sorry.
303 North State Street.
Would we strike the previous vote? Or do we just amend the motion?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that was talked about during the period of time, so the we need to say it was a clarification.
That's fine. I just need to know which district you recommend to the board.
I would go with Mr. Josh's recommendation to go with the adjoining B1 properties as noted on the map. With agenda item 5C with point of clarification on 303 North State Street.
Thank you.
So make sure.
We'll open the public hearing for a petition for zoning text amendment regarding the electric vehicle charging regulations. There's a typo there in our agenda. Zoning text amendment 2 regarding.
I just want to smack the gavel too.
Great.
It's not a public hearing.
Mr. Vaselli seems to enjoy it.
Every item, just.
Is there anyone signed up to speak on this particular item this evening, Mr.?
No, sir. I'll just note again for the public record that there was publication of this hearing in the Daily Herald, properly published at least 15, but not more than 30 days before this date. Is in your packet. So like a summary or kind of an introduction. Actually, I even have a little brief PowerPoint that I prepared for the village board last week that I'll share with all of you once I get my computer working here. So the electric vehicle readiness program is a program that was put on or is being currently put on by the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, and with support of their sustainability staff, some CMAP staff, representatives from ComEd and other organizations. Here we go.
What's that? If you wouldn't mind doubling up from here forward, sure.
So I'll just share my screen here. So the goal of the program is to prepare to meet the growing demand for electric vehicles and the associated charging infrastructure. The idea being that it looks through our code, it looks through our policies, our permitting, all of those things to implement the best practices related to the areas of concern or enforcement. There's a first cohort that we are a part of, we applied for and were accepted into. There's the 15 other organizations you can see there, including the city of Chicago, Kane County, and several other municipalities. So of varying size and location. The certification process through this, if you've ever heard of the SolSmart program, it's similar to that. It's the same type of program put on by the same organization. So there's 3 different levels: bronze, silver, and gold, with associated points. Those points correlate to tasks that the community is required to undergo. There are certain ones required for bronze, certain that are required for silver, and then gold, and there's elective points totaling the amount that you need to get. I wrote down here that our target is 180 points, which is plenty to get bronze, not enough to get silver or gold. And there's reasons that we're not going for silver or gold that I'll show later on. But the point I wanted to make here is that we're not just doing the bare minimum. We're doing things that the staff thinks are appropriate and things that we can do in the amount of time allotted. So there are 11 focus areas, and you can see them all there. The ones that are really being adjusted tonight are under zoning and planning. There's also several under parking and access that are in our zoning code, so they're being considered by this commission. Our permitting was already up to snuff, if you will. We already have processes for electric vehicle permitting. We already have the codes adopted to do the building permits for it. Safety and training is one more I want to point out, and actually I'll go to this. I can come back to this later if you'd like, but I'll go to this tab of example tasks. Under safety and training, one of the cool things we were able to do is get the fire district involved, and they got sent to several of their members got sent to in-person training on how to deal with fires for electric vehicles. So that was something cooperative that we were able to do with them. As you can see up there, the first several bullet points, 6 of them are areas that have examples of acts that we are going to accomplish. There towards the bottom, you can see, I think the new construction one was for silver, and the municipal fleets one was required to get gold. So under new construction, we would have been required to establish a timeline that all new construction was going to be required to have EV ready systems installed, not the chargers themselves, but all of the electrical equipment installed. I'll make a note later on that the state of Illinois has actually done something similar to that recently, but under municipal fleets, we would have also been required to procure 2 electric vehicles based on the size of our fleet to get gold certification. So at the time, staff didn't feel like this was something we could do right now, perhaps in the future, but not in the plans right now. One other big portion is going to be community engagement for us. So there will be a comprehensive webpage with links to codes and checklists for permitting processes and frequently asked questions. There's also going to be a link to the Illinois Commerce Commission's page for contractor certifications for certified contractors to do these installations, so the public can make sure they have good contractors. So that'll be an important thing that we do. So the next steps, we're on number 2 right here, planning and zoning hearing, or workshop as I might have called it. There's no particular rush on this. I mean, the idea was for all the communities to get their certification by the end of the summer. So we've got plenty of time. If this commission wants to take multiple meetings and go through things and have good discussion about it, that's great. I'm not married to any of the provisions in here, so it's just what staff prepared to start with. And then the village board will approve the amendments and we'll launch the EV webpage and go for our certification. A couple of points of interest I wanted to note. ComEd has been really involved. They were on kind of the, I forget what they call it, but like the creation committee for designing what the rules and everything were going to be. And which is really good, right? Because everybody is concerned about the electrical infrastructure needed to actually charge these vehicles if everybody starts getting them. So ComEd has started to take a really proactive approach. They have an online registration for electric vehicles where people can, say I have one or more electric vehicles so that they know areas that are starting to grow there and they can start making proactive upgrades in the system to that area. Just as an example, we looked at adding a couple EVs downtown to the public parking spaces, and it was going to cost us, first of all, about $70,000 or $80,000 for a fast charger. And then it was going to cost us over $100,000 to make the electrical improvements to the transformers and everything. And I'm not doing that. That just gives you an idea, though. And then the last thing I wanted to note is this new construction requirement. So the state of Illinois, effective January 1st of 24, now requires all new single-family homes and small multifamily developments to be EV capable. So that's the one on the farthest right, or farthest left. As it goes from left to right, it gets more of the system gets built into the home. So EV capable is basically the panel has to be there and ready to accept everything. There has to be a raceway and a junction box. EV ready is one step further. That's the breaker needs to be installed. The electrical has to be through the raceway and there's got to be a receptacle, so you just buy a charger and plug it in. And then the third step is the actual charger. That's EV installed. So that's the whole presentation on what the program is. Are there any questions about that before we dig into the proposed amendment? Okay. So I'll stop sharing my screen. I guess we're still in the public hearing, so I'll just say the staff prepared an amendment that is in your packet. It deals with the zoning chapter regulations. There will likely also be amendments to other chapters of the village code that the village board will consider. But essentially what's included in here is largely the definitions of private versus retail charging, with the idea being that retail chargers are public, anybody can come use them and purchase electricity for their vehicle. Private being it's just for that individual's property. And then there's some general requirements about permitting and safety, and there's the largest section there is probably about parking, which I believe we have some discussion tonight. So that's all I have for the hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. With no public comment on the matter, I will close the hearing at 7:18. On to the next agenda item. Are there any questions on comments, discussion on the motion to recommend approval of the zoning text amendment to add electrical vehicle charging, etc.?
At this time, I think it's a little premature. There's some text in here that I professionally do not agree with. Charging is not parking. Access board has made that clear. Also, there's some accessibility concerns with the way that some of this language is written.
Can you be more specific?
Absolutely. There is a section in here that says where more than 3 parking spaces are served by.
What page are you
It's the last page of the packet. Page 41.
on? Okay,
Top of page, item 4. It's essentially saying that the threshold for providing an accessible parking stall serving an EV charging station is 3. I don't believe this is in line with ADA guidelines, nor with the Access Board published guidelines on EV charging stations. Access Board published those originally in 2016, updated again July of last year. This isn't in line with their recommendations.
well, what is the recommendation?
The recommendation is a reasonable number. A reasonable number, if you go back to International Building Code 2021 edition, I believe it's chapter 11, says it's 5%. 5% of EV charging stations should be accessible.
5% of
EV charging stations. So if you have an EV charging stall, say you have a group of 10, 5% of that group of 10, rounding up to the nearest whole number, would need to be accessible. This doesn't seem to align with my understanding of current code provisions. I don't think it's our prerogative to change somebody else's established standard. Also, Access Board has, on their federal website, stated that EV charging station is not parking. And also to treat EV charging stations separately from parking.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make one comment, I just want to note that the program had a lot of discussion about parking and how to treat the land use of EV charging. So a lot of people advocated for treating it like a gas station, where it's a fueling station, it's just of a different kind. So in the sections above this, where it has all of the line items for adding it to the different zoning districts, basically staff looked at it and said if it's got parking lots or it's got fuel stations, we were going to put it in the same way. Of course, that's subject to your change. That's just how we did it. But yeah, I mean, it's not the same as a parking space. It is a different type of land use. There's whole infrastructure that goes into it that's different than just a regular parking. The idea of it being similar to parking is mostly aesthetically, that cars are going to be in one place for a period of time, similar to a parking lot. So take that for what you will. I agree with Commissioner Duhai that the 3 parking spaces is not in line with the 21 building code. We are currently not under that code, but there's no reason that this commission could recommend that kind of those kind of standards or guidelines. Something simpler could just be to take out some of the language that staff included in here and say that they shall be in compliance with all state and federal standards for accessible use. That's typically what the village has done in the past when there are superseding state and federal laws. Just the board recognizes that and it puts in the language, general language, so that as federal and state laws change, the local code will change with it.
Well, it does say as required by law. Isn't that saying the same thing that Jeff was saying?
National building code isn't necessarily law unless it's adopted by your local
Right.
authority having jurisdiction. In this case, our building code is 2018. Unless we adopted 2021 IBC, it is not currently law in Hampshire. But it is the only established standard across the nation when it comes to proportioning out accessible EV stalls at this time. And federally, they have stated a reasonable number. At least in my interpretation, I go to the only published standard as a reasonable number.
Yeah, I don't think staff would have any problem with that, if that were the recommendation from the commission to include at this time, to include a specific reference to the 2021 IBC. As far as the ratio of spaces that is required. There was one other note that I wanted to make that I forgot. Oh, I just want to note that other communities are doing some creative things to encourage EV charging. If you'll note in that same section about parking, what is it, number 2 currently states that parking spaces serviced by chargers may count towards the required spaces. So our zoning code for a particular type of use requires a certain number of parking spaces based on the square footage of the store or the number of seats in the restaurant. And so this would allow those charging spaces to be counted as such. That kind of treats it like a parking space, but the idea is that properties are only so large and you only want to force somebody to invest so much money in their parking areas and charging. Some communities are even going so far to say that an EV charging space will count as 2 parking spaces, just to encourage it, because then they need fewer overall parking space to accomplish the code requirements. Not something that staff felt like we should recommend, but that's something that you could consider recommending to the board. So for now, we just basically put in there that you could do that, but it will not be allowed to be designated for EV charging because it is meant to be a parking space and not meant to just be a charging space. So theoretically, another vehicle could pull in there and use it as a parking space. The owner could, of course, decide to provide a separate area that is just for EV charging above and beyond the parking requirements, which would be, so it's that debate about is EV charging like parking enough to allow it like that, or should it really be separate? That's kind of up for this commission's discretion.
I applaud those kinds of efforts. I think that's fantastic, especially when we're talking about a level 2 charger. But, as you were talking about, you were looking into a DC fast charger for Stage Street. A DC fast charger is you plug in for 30 minutes and you're gone. A level 2 charger is, to get a full charge, you're gonna have to plug in for 2 or 3 hours. I think it's rather dependent on the use of the building classification use, if that's appropriate to count it as a parking stall or not. If you're going to a coffee shop, does it really matter? Or is the intent of the coffee shop, we have a DC fast charging station, say we're off of I-90, which is an EV charging corridor. Maybe the intent of the coffee shop is we have somebody coming off the highway, charging their car, getting a coffee, going back on the highway. More of like the gas station concept, but more of an amenity. That kind of use I see is different than, I own a bar, I have a level 2 charger, my patrons are gonna come to the bar anyways, but it's nice that, they can charge their car. I think there's some distinction between different uses and really how you can classify it that way. Because also something that's up and coming, and IDOT has actually published some information on it, is, truck charging is going to be coming up. There's a lot of money out there. If you incorporate DC fast chargers and truck charging into a single unit, you can get a lot of money from IDOT and from the feds with some of the recent legislation. And I don't necessarily see that potentially reflected in this. I think we have an opportunity to do that. And it could be an opportunity to attract businesses that want to get a hold of that money and, create a foothold in Hampshire that way. I think it's a fantastic start, but I think there's just a little bit more we could do with this.
Any other questions, comments, deliberation?
Sounds like this needs to be tabled until we have a better understanding.
Yeah, I'd assume that this would maybe take two or more meetings, so it's perfectly fine if the commission wants to table it and discuss it more at the next round. I would appreciate some, I assume that Commissioner Duhai is gonna send us some language that you would like to see. At this time, if there's commissioners that maybe don't want to do homework, but just want to give staff some of their feelings about any language that should be changed or modified, or how they feel about chargers counting as parking spaces or not, then we can try to incorporate that in the next draft.
Sure. I do have 3 typos.
Great. Well, I'm here for it. Our attorney hasn't seen this yet, so don't blame him.
No, I'll own it, I'll take full credit.
Page 38, electrical vehicle charging lot. Convenience versus convince. Last sentence.
Convenience stores, got it.
Page 39, 692, section 692. Restricted minus an E.
Charles Barkley wrote this one.
What's that?
Charles Barkley wrote this one.
I do apologize, I actually lost my other one. Page 35, analysis, item 1, type of charging.
Oh, it's on the agenda somewhere.
Oh, yeah, never mind that.
That's just my error.
So in that case then, I will entertain a motion to table agenda item E for further discussion and amendments, additions to be brought back at a later time.
I'll make a motion to table agenda item E.
I'll second.
Mr. Rossetti?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Ms. Duhai?
Yes.
Mr. Froman?
Aye.
I myself will also vote aye. All righty, I will entertain a motion to authorize the chair to report the actions of the commission this evening with appropriate findings of fact and recommendations to the village board of trustees.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Froman?
Aye.
Ms. Duhai?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
signed up to speak publicly this evening, Mr. Ray?
Sir?
I myself have no announcements. Entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:30.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Please do aye.
Yes.
Mr. Berlin? Aye. Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Bezzetti?
Aye.
Thank you.